Hey, I'm Chris, and this is MMA for you. I'm going to be doing my post-fight analysis for Invicta FC 19, Maya versus Modafferi. But before I get into that, I'd like to plug my own author's website at www.chrismoldon.com. I am an author specializing in the fantasy genre, and you can purchase some of my works, starting with my first novel, an action adventure called The Mustard Prince in the Condiment Kingdom, for $4.99 on my website on PDF format, or if you have an e-reader such as a Kindle, you can buy it for $4.99 on Amazon.com. Also, on for just $1.99 on my website on Amazon.com, you can buy some of my short stories and short story collections, starting with the fantasy horror short story, The Land of the Wooden Statues, which I'm currently trying to make into a novel. The horror collection, which is three of my gothic horror short stories, and the Fantasy Fable collection, which is a compilation of four of my Fantasy Fable short stories. Links to buy these will be provided on the description, and also a link to my Twitter page is on the description, along with a link to my author's Facebook page and a link to my author's YouTube page, which is which has like me doing like manga reviews or reading some of my short stories. Okay, on to this card. Fun card. Really, there wasn't too many bad matchups. The only one that was kind of a stinker, more closer to the third round, was Medeiros versus Kolakar. But I thought every other fight was pretty good. Good finishes too. You got Hamasaki getting technically getting a second round finish. Irene Aldana first round finish against Faith Van Doon. Cal Holiday first round finish over Tiffany Van Soos or Soos. Julia Jones over Stephanie Skinner, round one armbar. Amber Librock over Amy Coleman, round one TKO. My picks, not too bad, 6 out of 8. Two that I missed are Amber Librock versus Amy Coleman, and Cal Holiday versus Tiffany Van Soest. Bonuses, fight of the night went to Jennifer Maya versus Roxanne Modafferi, and performance of the night went to Irene Aldana and Julia Jones. One thing to note is that one of a regular commentator, actually, um, there was a lot of Twitter messages that were being shown during the broadcast, and one of a regular commentator, his name's Corey Jensen, his tweet was actually read on the broadcast. So that's pretty cool, actually. Um, you know what? Let's just get started. Jennifer Maya defeated Roxanne Modafferi by split decision. Now, I don't agree that it should have been a split decision personally. I thought that Maya won rounds 1, 4, and 5 with an argument for her winning round 3. It was close, relatively so, and it was a really fun fight. But, I think the downfall here for Modafferi, she just doesn't hit very hard, and she's not particularly athletic. Uh, One thing about Jennifer Maya is that she's really composed and a really disciplined fighter. Like, the way she looks in round 1 is the way she looks in round 5. And, like, from where her hand positioning is, the combination she throws, I mean, she looks really disciplined. She doesn't break away from what she's doing and what she's doing well. Um, I gotta say that Roxanne did really well on the ground, including off her back, threatening with arm bars constantly. And that was kind of the fault of Maya because she was like trying to stack Modafferi, but in a way that had Maya off balance and out of position. She was kind of leaning forward, which you're not really supposed to do, and which kind of like invited those arm bars to be there. Uh, Maya, though, overall, she's a better combination striker and just a pressure fighter. Around the fourth and fifth round, especially, she's able to shuck off and defend against Modafferi's takedown attempts. And she just looked like the stronger fighter there too. Um, you know, coming into this fight though, there was something of a narrative with Roxanne Modafferi that of fans that really didn't uh, see her progression through Invicta FC. I mean, one thing a lot of people have to realize is that she's training out of a syndicate now, and she doesn't just train out there; she trains like full time, if I'm not mistaken, or like there, and it really helped her boxing game. And I mean, I read like one comment on a board that said like, "Oh, she's a garbage fight, more or less a garbage fighter," you know, and that's just not true. It is like demonstrably false because even Roxanne before joining Syndicate and showing this new striking, she's always been pretty crafty on the ground. I mean, she is a good guard passer. She can keep dominant positions pretty well. Um, Especially now that she's just more experienced. I think back then she'd be a little more loose about things, but now she's she knows how to keep good position. And you can see it in fights against like Mariana Moraes or like Andrea KGB Lee. And then the other thing with Modafferi is that her striking just better. It's not great, but it's definitely serviceable. It's still awkward, but it's not. I mean, better strikers beat her. Porto, and in this case Jennifer Maya. But for the most part, she's actually outstruck some of her competition, including like Andrea Lee and Deanna Bennett, to name a few. So I mean, this really, even though she didn't win the title, this really kind of shows a culmination of what Roxanne Modafferi has become, and kind of like a growth, her growth as a fighter, because like she wasn't having fights like this before, you know. Well, not scratch that. It was against Tara La Rosa, I guess she was, but like, this is a high stakes bout. 5 rounds. She went 5 rounds. She was hitting Maya a couple times too, cleanly. But Maya would every time like when Maya got hit, it really didn't seem to affect her very much. Whereas if Modafferi got hit, it seemed to have stunned her quite a bit. But well, with that said, though, I'm guessing with Jennifer Maya, unless they can get Barb Honchak back, uh, the next two uh, women's flyweights that are coming off wins, uh, that would be interesting opponents for her would probably be like Sarah DeLelio, who came off that win over Andrea KGB Lee. Or another one that I think would be interesting, I don't think she's ready for it, would be Agnieszka Nedwidge, because she's coming off that win over Christine Stanley. And Nedwidge is only like 20, 21 years old. She's still very much a prospect. Uh, at this point, though, besides Honchak, I don't really see too many fighters beating Jennifer Maya at this time, outside of the UFC at least. Um, with Roxanne Modafferi, I mean, it's kind of tough with her because like she she's a prospect killer at 125. Like I said, Mariana Moraes, Andrea Lee, and Deanna Bennett all lost her. And they're all prospects. Um, like I would not do Agnieszka Nedwidge against Roxanne Modafferi at this time. Could Agnieszka win? Yeah, she could win. Um, Modafferi is just pretty crafty. I'd like to see someone a bit more experienced fight Roxanne Modafferi. It's just I don't really know who that is at 125 pounds, but yeah, great fight. It was something of what I expected, but it's still really fun to watch. As far as that, Ayaka Hamasaki defeated Jinny Fry by Doctor Stoppage TKO in the second round. This was a fun fight too, but the ending was quite unfortunate. Um, there were some things I liked about Fry here. One, she's able to kick out when she was in the bottom and guard. She's able to kick Hamasaki off and stand back up. And it didn't. It looked like Hamasaki had a hard time keeping Fry down. So had the fight gone longer, it'd be very interesting how this fight would have turned out. Fry almost won with ground and pound from the mount in the first round. It was not that dissimilar to what like Ryan Bader did to Anthony Johnson, trying to get this Kimura from like a bad position, and then even though still mounted, still tried for the same Kimura, and that almost cost her the round and a fight. Fry actually got hit with a really good combination from Hamasaki, and that really surprised me actually. The final combination that pretty much ended the fight. That kind of surprised me just because I don't think of Hamasaki as a very good striker per se, but just a better grappler. But yeah, it actually really it seemed to have really wobbled Jinyu Fry. Um, so it looks like Hamasaki's getting better with her hands and just better with her stand up. Uh, Otherwise, really unfortunate ending because like it, I, I can't really tell if this fight would have stayed the way it did or not. If Fry could get off from the bottom, she get taken down, get off from the bottom, possibly outstrike Hamasaki, or if the later rounds come about, Fry gasses or something. Like historically, Fry's gas tank has been a bit questionable, and maybe Hamasaki can take over. I don't know. Um, Julie Ketzi was saying that there's a possibility of a rematch between the two. Wouldn't be the worst thing because the fact of the matter is there aren't too many atom weights that are like truly into running right now. Like, I mean, if the rematch doesn't happen, then I guess you can give it to Tessa Simpson maybe, who's coming off a win um, against I think it's against Sukapova or geez, I'm not too sure now. I think it's Sukapova, and then Julia Jones who won earlier against Stephanie Skinner. They're coming off of one win in Invicta. I mean, they have other wins before that, but like as far as in Invicta goes, it's like, and they don't have many fights either. So Fry versus Hamasaki as a rematch would actually be pretty good. Next fight after that, Irene Aldana defeated Faith Van Doon by TKO 4 minutes and 57 seconds in the first round. I was actually surprised how much Aldana got hit, but obviously Irene Aldana is just overall the harder puncher, and she has a much more crisp technique. She moves her head really well. Could work on the defense, I suppose, but otherwise she throws some really good straight punches. Her right hand is dynamite. She's one of the few women that has like legit knockout power in women's MMA, and Amanda Nunes has it, and others, but like it's very few and far between, even in like the higher weight classes, um, for women to have knockout power. It just isn't always there. I think it's getting better though. I think as women are getting stronger technique, the knockouts are starting to come. But as far as Aldana goes, really, to me, it's either she gets a rematch against Evinger or she should just get signed to the UFC at this point. Because I think Aldana's, outside of beating Evander, she's done everything that she possibly could. She's got some, she has some recognition. She's got a good amount of experience over some pretty solid fighters. She beat like Schneider. Van Doon isn't a bad opponent at all. Um, Among others that she's beaten. Uh, and she's fought like like the champion of Invicta. So, and Alexa Grasso, her teammate, just got signed to the UFC. So I wouldn't be surprised if Aldana gets signed pretty soon. She's pretty much one of the best women's bantamweights outside of the UFC at this point. Um, so as far as Faith Van Doon goes, I mean, for the most part, there isn't like there's no perfect opponent for her next. She actually looked pretty good here, but I think she missed weight by like what 2 or 3 pounds. So she's gotta watch out for that. But she actually looked pretty solid. Her striking don't look too bad. Her ground game's pretty good actually. 135. I'm a bit curious to see. She's pretty big for a weight class. I wonder if she goes back to 145. I mean, she got blasted by Cyborg, but Cyborg isn't there at the moment in Invicta, so see what happens with her really. Next shot that, Kayleen Medeiros defeated Manjit Kalakar by unanimous decision. That third round was and a good majority of the second was not a good look for Kolakar, and that made it this one of the weaker fights of the card. I was impressed by some things by Kolakar, and I'll say this right now: she looked a lot better than I thought she would, because where she comes from in India, I mean, it's just India in general just is so behind training wise than even like China or like maybe even like South Africa. Some of the areas that don't have that high of a level of MMA training. And I like Kolakar scrambling. I was actually kind of surprised she was able to scramble as well as she did. And her stand-up actually looked pretty decent. She actually had a couple good body kicks on Medeiros. I didn't like that she was more or less running though, and just circle, circle, circle. But Medeiros, I mean, didn't have the footwork to really do anything about it, and she got kind of angry about it. But for the most part, too, Kolika also looked like when she got hit clean, she always had this like she didn't seem to react really well to getting hit like that. But once again, she did a lot better than I thought she would. I thought Kayleen, or is it Kylene? Yeah, I thought Medeiros would just run through her, and the fact that she didn't was actually quite surprising. Um, with Medeiros, I mean, if you want to go with her getting someone higher up there, like Livia Havanata Souza or something like that, that'd be interesting. I wouldn't mind seeing a bout like that at 115 pounds. Um, I can't really tell if Kylene's that close to getting a title shot. I know Mizuki Inoue is injured. The champion right now is Angela Hill. Alexa Grasso just moved to the UFC. So, I mean, Kayleen Medeiros isn't going to be that far behind as far as getting a title shot. Like, one more win could get her one. Manjit, she needs to move to a better camp. She looks like she has some toughness. She actually looks like she might have some talent, but like honestly, she just needs to get with a better camp. clean some stuff up with her like repertoire, and I think she was with like what did they say she was with Jackson's for like 2 weeks or something like that? I mean, she needs to be with like just a big camp for more than that. And maybe she can be something. Next round's out. Cal Holiday defeated Tiffany Van Soos by rear naked choke in the second round. This is pretty unfortunate because Tiffany Van Soos has some name value, especially from like lion fights and whatnot. Still pretty young, new to MMA, but not new to combat sports. And she fought pretty valiantly, even wobbled Holiday, but the wrestling of Holiday was way too strong. If you're pushing Tiffany Van Soest, honestly, you know, and I know you want to do, for the most part, you want to, fans or like purists in general want to see like equal matchups, and in this case it kind of was. They're both, Van Soest only had one pro MMA bout, and like this was Cal Holiday's first pro MMA bout, so, but as far as like seeing a prospect and raising them, you know, they could have done with giving Titsy Van Soos maybe someone that's more of a striking based fighter instead of like this hyper aggressive wrestler. Um, but they didn't go that route, and Cal Holiday looks pretty good. Not gonna lie, I was not expecting her to be so strong. Well, I saw some footage of her, but it was like her just being really aggressive and kind of sloppy. But I didn't expect, like, her wrestling was on point, and her overall grappling ability was on point. She she looks pretty tough. She did get wobbled, and it really goes to show that Van Soest needs very small openings to be able to do big damage, because there's that one point in the first round where it's like one punch and Holiday was just wobbled. It was near the end of the first round. I think Van Soest also got a head kick in there too that also seemed to have stunned Holiday. So, I mean, striking wise, Van Soest looks like she's going to have some power for this division, which is not a division known for having. At 115, fighters aren't really known to have that much power in their strikes. It's just not there yet. But Van Soest, like I said, a small opening, and she was almost able to change the course of the fight around, in a sense. With that said, though, Van Soest still needs work on the ground. She fought valiantly, but you can tell that she's still very much a novice on the ground. Her takedown defense wasn't bad. It's like she had the right idea of like spreading out her base, but like she didn't really seem to pummel as hard as she could or push on the head as much as she could. Gave up her backs off of scrambles and trying to get back to her feet in that like really unsafe way that'll get your back taken with hooks. And the way she's defending the choke, I mean, she did pretty well overall. She did tuck into chin, but on transition, I mean, you're talking about the forearm pretty much being on the chin or like very close to being under the chin just on transition. On transition on the ground with her back taken. So like, Holiday was able to slap in those chokes and get them pretty deep quite often. There's still a lot of potential at Van Zeus, but she's going to need some work. She did fight someone that's tough, aggressive, and a good wrestler grappler. So like, it wasn't necessarily the best stylistic matchup for her at this time. But I'd like to see more Van Zeus, and I'd definitely like to see more Cal Holiday. Uh, like I said, tough, strong grappler, strong wrestler. Um, you know, so uh, it's really hard to pick like who fighters get next, especially if they're like kind of new or like lower tier fighters or like inexperienced fighters. So just I guess whoever they get at this point. And I'll say that for most of these fighters. Next fight after that, Julia Jones defeated Stephanie Skinner by armbar in the first round. Um, this this fight was actually pretty interesting because one, if I'm not mistaken, Julia Jones has a lot of like she's 4-0, but like she only had like one finish. I think it was by sub. Then she caught a kick, and then it's pretty much over from there. Um, you know, Julia Jones looks pretty solid. This seemed like a gimme. Stephanie Skinner was like 4-5. Julia Jones was 4-0. Skinner is like her nickname says, she's scrappy, but like I don't know if she just hasn't put it all together yet. Julia Jones looks solid enough. I would imagine they're probably gonna try and get her another fight or two before she fights for the title. It's always nice to see new atom weights. It's actually a pretty good division, but yeah, that's really all I can say about that fight. Next fight, that Amber Leibrock defeated Amy Coleman by TKO at knees, 3 minutes and 15 seconds in the first round. I thought Coleman would use her judo advantage to be against Coleman or Leibrock and be able to get some ground and pound going. Coleman did show some of that judo. She did get a nice takedown on Leibrock, but Leibrock was able to get back to her feet. Uh, Leibrock's body work, knees to the body, and of course the head, was definitely the difference maker here. She's tall for the weight class. The only one who's been able to beat her is Megan Anderson, who's actually taller than Amber Leibrock, and pretty much has the same game, but is way more polished at this point. But Leibrock's actually like 28 years old. She's only her third pro MMA bout. Um, she has potential. I don't really know what to make of her after that loss against Megan Anderson, just because like before that she beat Marina Shafir, and it's like, Marina Shafir isn't very good. Her chin's not very good. Her judo's good, but she has a lot of holes in her stand-up. And then she got beaten by Megan Anderson, and it's like, okay, you lost to Megan Anderson, who's closer to the higher end of the division. How good or not good is Leibrock? And it's like, a performance like this shows that, she's very much a prospect in this division still. She fights someone like an Amanda Bell or something like that next. I'm curious to see more of her. She looks like she has some good power too. It's really interesting. Her post-fight interview was like, "Yeah, you got to do the drills." I mean, it's like, wow, just drill, 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 and you get it, and it's like, or something to that nature. It's like, yeah, that's usually how this stuff works. Good one for Leibrock. Coleman, tough break. That's all I can really say. Uh, there aren't too many Amber Leibrocks. I mean, there's like Megan Anderson has a similar style. Well, maybe Coleman can do something in this division, but Leibrock definitely has some upside. And finally, Suna Ranvig, David's daughter, defeated Ashley Greenway by unanimous decision. Uh, um, you know, coming into this, I picked Suna, and she won. And I liked what I saw from her, just from a all-around standpoint. One thing about Greenway is that she's pretty good on the ground. Her stand-up's not that great, but David's daughter, she's better on the ground. Took her back a couple times, and I actually like David's daughter's stand-up. I thought it was decent enough for her experience level. Um, she seemed like the bigger fighter there. Her clinch game looks good. Her overall grappling game looks pretty good. I mean, considering that this is yeah, David's daughter's first, I think her first pro MMA bout, she looked actually a little better than I thought she would. Like I said, there's her all-around game didn't look bad. I'm not saying it's polished or anything like that. I mean, she can definitely use more polish in her stand-up and whatnot, but it was actually pretty good. I'm actually a bit curious to see where she goes from here. Ashley Greenway, uh, she's not the greatest athlete. She's kind of scrappy. She's pretty good on the ground, but not great. Her stand-up needs some work. It's really tough to say where she goes from here. So that's pretty much it for my post-fight analysis for Invicta FC 19. If you have any comments, just leave them below. And please check out my website at www.chrismoldon.com, and you can buy some of my work, starting with The Mustard Prince in the Condiment Kingdom for $4.99 on my website or on Amazon.com. And for just $1.99 on my website or on Amazon.com, you can buy some of my short stories and short story collections, starting with The Land of the Wooden Statues. Then there's the horror collection, and finally the fantasy fable collection. And links to buy all of these will be provided on the description. So, yeah, that's pretty much it for MMA for you. Thank you guys very much.